Corey.
Good
So
morning.
does the president-elect have any concerns here about Pete Hegseth and his nomination?
We have no concerns at all. Look, Pete is eminently qualified to be the Secretary of Defense. The issue is, he's outside of the box thinking. He's not the traditional military industrial complex choice, someone who's been through the ranks. Pete has served with distinction in his capacity in the military. He's a Princeton graduate. He's a Harvard graduate. He has frontline duties. And the fact that Donald Trump is picking somebody to go and fundamentally reform the Pentagon should be of no surprise, as we have seen a military-industrial complex that has made billions, if not trillions of dollars over the course of the last multiple decades, engaging in multiple wars around this world. And it's time to bring our troops home, and Pete will make sure that that's exactly what we do.
We know that military recruitment numbers have struggled recently. We've covered that for, I believe it's almost all of the branches of the military. And Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty was on ABC actually talking about how Hegseth's nomination could be a boost for military morale. Let's watch that.
Pete is a very talented individual. I talked with him earlier this week. He told me, John, about how many people had written to him and said, look, I was thinking about getting out. You know, we have a huge recruitment problem, a huge retention problem in the military. I was thinking about getting out, but now that you've come to lead us, Pete, I'm going to stay in.
Corey, was that part of the motivation behind the president-elect's decision to choose Pete Hegseth?
I think it's not the primary focus, but it's clearly one that's very important. Look, we have a military over the last 4 years who've been decimated by the Biden-Harris policies, the devastating Afghanistan withdrawal where we left men and women behind to perish. And having somebody now who's an outside-the-box thinker, who's young, that can relate to those individuals on the ground, not the politicians and the generals that have traditionally been given this opportunity, is really encouraging for those rank-and-file military officers who are saying, I'm at the end of my tenure. Do I want to re-up for 4 more years under a potential Secretary of Defense Hegseth, or do I want to go home and find a new opportunity in the private sector? And what Pete brings is that special warfare skill set, which is someone who's been there and someone who's going to encourage these troops to be the best they can be, not as a politician, but as one of those ground fighters.
It's a good point. Illinois Senator Tammy Duckworth was on CBS over the weekend where she appeared to be open to supporting Trump's cabinet nominees. Watch this.
Could you see yourself supporting her or any of the other nominees?
Absolutely. What I would need to do is have a chance to sit down and talk with each one of these nominees and listen to them and hear what they have to say.
So does this give you hope that these nominees are going to get through over the finish line?
Well, I think the reality is that with 53 Republican U.S. senators, we're going to get all of our nominees through. I hope that this isn't a partisan witch hunt, that the Democrats vote against the nominees just on principle and not on the merits. So what we saw under the Biden administration is that a number of his nominees received broad bipartisan support from both Democrats and Republicans because it is the president's prerogative to have his people in the cabinet. That is Donald Trump's prerogative, and I hope these U.S. senators go into these confirmation hearings with an open mind and an open heart and understand that the qualifications of these people are commensurate with the jobs that they're filling, and they should be confirmed with the advice and consent of the U.S. Senate.
And again, that was a soundbite from a Democratic senator, of course. A big question about where these Republican senators fall with these choices. Do you anticipate any of them holding up some of the nominations based on what you've seen so far?
Well, I know that a number of the Republican senators gave pause and consternation about then candidate Gates's nomination. That's obviously since been withdrawn, and I think Pam Bondi is going to fly through. She's eminently qualified to be the Attorney General. But the Republicans, like the Democrats, will have a right to ask the questions of these nominees of what they're going to do, where their allegiance is, and what their goals are to make our country great again. And that's how the system works. But I think by and large, the Republicans should be deferring to President Trump because these are his choices. He's coming to Washington, D.C. with a mandate. And the people that he's nominating are qualified for these positions. So I hope we go through a speedy approval process so we can get started on day one.
All right, we were just showing some of the nominees there. A reminder, he's working obviously very quickly to fill the cabinet, and then we'll be waiting to see the details of the confirmation hearings. Corey Lewandowski, thanks so much for taking the time with us this morning.
Thanks,
Thank
Corey.
you.